Hi, I'm Pykno, and today we'll be taking a look at what I do to set up my FL Studio the way I want it to be every time a new FL Studio version comes out. Might seem tedious, but at the end of the day, it makes it easier, depending on your workflow, to get stuck in the second FL Studio fires up. So first things first, I tend to work at 140-ish, round about there. I prefer my default to be a 140. No particular reason for that. It's just the way I do things. Then the other thing is I don't actually use any of the stock sounds that actually sit there in the channel rack that comes with FL Studio. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them. They're fine to use. They're decent quality samples. And if you don't like those, obviously there is the ones that come with stock with FL Studio these days. These are all from the Groovemaker VST. That's the samples that it uses, and they're quite good actually. There's some real decent kicks and real decent snares in there. It's definitely worth checking that out. Anywho, got sidetracked there. So generally what I would do is I would add 10 blank samplers. I would reset the limiter. I leave the limiter on because I actually write into the limiter and then take it off and have a fiddle with the mix after the fact. And then I also add a span and a wave candy. So I have a bigger dB meter kind of sitting round about there usually. So first things first, adding some sampler channels. You add in, you go to your plugin database, generators, and none. Pop that in there. And the easy way to get rid of these types of channels, right click and either go delete or right click and hit D and O. Right click D and O, right click D and O, right click D and O. Now, for some of the reason, the way FL Studio's cloning works is a little bit weird. So you pick the channel you want to clone, you close its respective window and you hit Alt-C. The same thing again. Close the respective window, Alt-C, close the window, Alt-C, close the window, Alt-C, etc, etc. So I'll just quickly go through these. Right. While we're busy with it, for some of the reason, FL Studio never picks up the mod wheel automatically and saves that as a automatic function for synthesizers in its view. Now, I haven't particularly and specifically tested that massively with the FL12 beta as yet. As you can imagine, it's relatively fresh. It's only 2 days old, so I'm going to assume it doesn't work. So what I tend to do is find something, synthesizer, or I'm sure you've got a synthesizer, not the actual FL versions, VST version, and I'm going to use Nemesis just for the sake of showing what I do. And this is still part of the setup. Nemesis. So drop in a new sampler or a new channel. Don't overwrite one of your 10 channels. Then, now this is quite handy because of the fact that it's got a visual mod wheel that you can wiggle. You can do it that way, or you could just, you know, insert your plugin. If it doesn't have a visual mod wheel, wiggle it. Oh no, it doesn't work. What now? So that's where the tricky bit comes in, and that's the reason I'm showing you this. So if your plugin doesn't have a mod wheel you can wiggle, actually you can't even do it that way. You'd need to latch it either via the actual synthesizer if it's got the capability to do that, or the way I like to do it is you go browse parameters. And this is a pain in the ass, I do realize, but scroll around, find your mod wheel, go right click, link to controller, For some of the reason, it's not picking up my mod wheel now. That's interesting. Omni, auto detect. Actually, My bad. Reset. We'll go to F10. Make sure that the Akai is selected and is activated. Akai MP4. Enable. Refresh list. Go out. Right. Try again. It's all in the name of making it easier for you. Link to controller. And we're going to select Omni. Wiggle your controller. Hey, presto, it works. Magical. Now, get rid of this channel. And you're stuck again. Or back to just having those 10 sampler channels. You'll also notice with the stock preset that those 4 channels are in fact linked to 1, 2, 3, and 4. There's obviously nothing in them, but what's the point of having them linked to those particular channels? So this way I can drop a snare drum there and a kick drum there and a hi-hat there, and then route them manually the way I want them. Like I said, the other thing that I do, master channel, go to plugins, and I'll add a wave candy. I did actually add that first, but I tend to prefer that one to be second. And I also add a span. Seems kind of superfluous, but I seem to use it all the time when looking at snares and stuff like that. I'll drop that in there as well. So I'll drop that in there. I think my audio might have just glitched a little bit. Get rid of that, and here comes the fun part. So to have this save and come up like this every time you load, and I tend to, like I said, do like I can open it up and it's going to look like this every time. 140 BPM, first channel selected. My wave candy is in this particular format, span, wave candy, limiter. Oh yes, big thing with the other thing with the limiter is, have a look at that, your gain is actually pushed up on that. I just want it to limit, I don't want it to actually push up the gain, so I'll reset that the other way. Or the other thing you can do obviously is go to the presets and just go default, so no saturation on, and the gain and the ceiling is all at 0 dB, and I'll just leave it like that. Close that, and then we will go File, Save As, Templates, make a new folder, my templates, and make another folder within that, and make the folder name whatever you want this particular preset to be called. So I will say 10 samplers with lim, span, and wave candy. I spelled span badly. Wrong. Right click, rename, copy that name, and just paste it as that FLP's name. Go into that directory, save again. Now, how do you get this to actually load every time you go into FL Studio? First thing first is, it's not going to show up in the templates as yet because it's not active. That particular directory structure for the templates is not active. So what you have to do is you have to close your FL Studio. So we're going to do that now. Then open your FL Studio again. And now you'll notice there's a new directory there. My templates. And there's my little template. Load that. And then you'll obviously see there's my span, my limiter, all of that. I'm on the plugin database, selected first channel, 140 BPM. Now we can close. Open up again, and we're good. Span, wave candy, limiter on the default. 10 samplers, first sampler selected, 140 BPM. And also, not to forget, Nemesis, drag in. Sorry, I think my audio might have glitched again there. Drag in, and now I'm moving the mod wheel on my MIDI controller. Linked. So all of that, I know it's a pain in the ass, and I know it takes 10 minutes to do, but do it from the get-go, and you'll be sorted. your setup is ready. Now I know there's people that completely go overboard. They pre-set up buses, they color all their channels, they just go completely apeshit on this as far as presets are concerned for this type of thing. I tend to not go that far simply because of the fact that I like to do things slightly differently every time. I find if I preset a certain amount of channels for drums, and then a certain amount of channels for bass, and a certain amount of channels for whatever, it starts limiting the way I work, and it means I kind of get stuck in a groove, not a groove, a bad groove. Just your work gets stagnant because you're always doing, you know, you've got 5 channels for drums, and how do you fit it in there? Because it's such a pain in the ass to you know, change how your separator's got to be there and your colors and all of that jazz. So for me personally, I don't particularly like to do it. Now obviously with FL 12 you can actually quite easily, as I showed there, you can quite easily insert separators and take them out again. So my workflow might change at some point. I can't see it changing real soon. So, but hope that has helped you, and if you did, please like the video, thumbs up, and subscribe, and yeah, we'll see you in the next one for more FL Studio tutorials. Bye.